Fan.
Take me to Charch, I crawl through the fog and into your light. Show me a gem on the wave where I got starters on mine. Facing Odell Beckham Jr., my God, help me get out alive. Take me to Charch, last time I had a shot was 2009. Jones drew for the win, he kneeled short of the line. Listen, Charch, I'm back, you, my God, you were saving my life. Take me to Charch, I crawl through the fog and into your light. Show me a gem on the way.
What's going on, Charchy?
Hi, how's Dublin? How's the weather? What have you experienced so far? You just landed, what, in the last 24 hours, I assume?
I'm in St. Louis Park.
Still?
Yes, we leave tonight. And
Never mind.
in fact, I went to bed late, woke up at 4 a.m, laid in bed till 4:15, and I'm so tired right now because of that approach. And the goal was to become tired this evening so I can find the right level of fatigue and or posture to actually sleep in an upright chair. So it's been in patented Paul Charchian fashion. It's been overthought a little bit. It's backfiring a little bit, not in Paul Charchian fashion, in that I'm tired right now. But no, if you text me 20 hours from now, and I'll share the whole thing with you. Okay?
Yes, and now that you mention it, isn't there a rule that teams can only fly in for these international games on Thursday? I think that is a requirement now that you mention it.
What do I look like?
This is not your first rodeo. You've done, I don't know what, all 8 of the Vikings Europe games you've done, correct?
Wembley in 2013, Twickenham in 2017, Tottenham Hotspur times 2, that'd be 4. So technically 4 games, but each game has 2 halves. So if we multiply the halves, I guess I've been there 8 times.
Great. Okay, I thought I saw.
It's a blessing that you are the identity of fantasy football. And I don't know what's happening at those rest stops adjacent to St. George. And St. George has been in the news the last week and change, 2 weeks, a little more than probably people wanted it to be. But you play fast at fantasy football. Let's put it that way. I'm not in Dublin. I've only been to Europe 4 times. And here we go with this evening's game. Let's begin there. Trey Benson for James Conner. What do we do?
Trey Benson is a good back, Paul. He was the second back taken in last year's draft, and he's somebody I liked a lot, and I think he's going to be a massive helper for fantasy purposes. James Conner's season is over, sadly, and hopefully not his career, but it might be. He came into this year at 30 years old, and these kinds of foot injuries, and it's a nasty one. It might be a career for him, as great a story as it's been. Benson, power runner. He's got surprising wiggle, some decent speed. They had given him a much bigger workload already this year, and he looked a lot better than he did last year. He's averaging 6 yards per carry, and he can catch a little bit. He's got decent hands. Seattle's been a very good run defense. They rank 3rd best, just 3.2 yards per carry. They have not given up a rushing touchdown. I don't think Benson's going to go off tonight, but long term over the rest of the season, I really like Trey Benson to be a big helper. And frankly, the way Arizona's passing the ball, they need Benson to be a workhorse for them and to take some of the stress off of passing offense that has not been good.
What do you do with Seattle rookie receiver Torrey Horton? And here's the reason I bring him up, is he's averaging 1.7 catches a game, but he has 2 touchdowns through 3 games. How do you handle that?
So if I've got this stat correct, and I think I do, he is the fastest player to ever have a return touchdown and a receiving touchdown in the same game. He did it in game 3 of his rookie year. This Seattle receiver is, he's not getting tons of playing time, but he's getting enough. Cooper Kupp is still the 1B behind Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's great. But Torrey Horton is the guy who, like by mid-season, by next year, he's going to be a problem. This kid's really good, super consistent player, really good hands, gets in the right spot, gets himself open. He's going to be a good player, and I think Seattle found a really nice complimentary guy, like 4th-round receiver, who's making an impact already.
You know, speaking of that receiving core, and you mentioned the rookie, but you kind of glossed over Jackson Smith-Njigba as part of that conversation, specifically with Jackson. What are we on to here, specifically with the chemistry that he's building with Sam Darnold?
Nobody's talking about Jackson Smith-Njigba as one of the 10 great receivers in this league. He is. I mean, I don't think he's at that Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, like Puka Nacua level, but Jackson Smith-Njigba's in this next tier. He's number 2 in receiving yards. He's the 5th most targeted receiver. And honestly, it would have been more, but the Seahawks crushed the Saints last week. They didn't have to pass in the whole second half. And for tonight's game, Njigba's got a phenomenal matchup because the Cardinals' best cornerback, Will Johnson's going to be out with a groin injury. They're putting in a 5th-round rookie named Denzel Burke to start against Jackson Smith-Njigba. And they've already allowed the 6th most yards to receivers. The last 2 number 1 wide receivers to face Arizona have topped 100 yards, and Jackson Smith is going to make it 3 in a row with a 100-yard game tonight, I believe. He is a superstar receiver that is all happening in real time right now in front of us, and a national audience is going to see it tonight for him.
You know, this kind of popped in my head and has nothing to do with tonight's game, but Brian Thomas. So I'm thinking about Jackson Smith-Njigba. They get rid of DK and, you know, first into second year, now second into third, I believe, for Smith-Njigba. So it's a bit different. But Brian Thomas, the year he had last year, and you think, okay, they're going to bring in this weird unicorn and Travis Hunter, open things up a bit, no more Evan Ingram, et cetera. And Brian Thomas has kind of been a disaster, at least from a fantasy perspective. What's up with Brian Thomas in Jacksonville?
Okay, several things happening with Brian Thomas. Number 1, he has only caught 7 passes on 24 targets. Ugh. Think about that, right? You get targeted 24 times in the NFL. You should be catching 19 of those, some of it on Trevor Lawrence, but he's also had a drop in every game. Most receivers will go all year and have roughly 3-ish drops. Brian Thomas got there, and they're ignominious drops at that for Brian Thomas. The other problem he's having, his separation is among the lowest in the league, so he's not getting open like he used to. And then, just for whatever reason, schematically, they're throwing a ton of things out. The Jaguars are tons of receivers onto the field. Diami Brown is getting a ton of time. Travis Hunter's getting time. Parker Washington getting a ton of time. And so they're using a rotation there. It's been a brutal start for Brian Thomas, but at least you can feel good knowing that they're targeting him plenty, and sooner or later he should be catching more of those passes. They're heavily invested in success. Hopefully it'll come around here.
What do you do with Marvin Harrison Jr.?
You bench him,
right,
Paul? It is. It's gotten to the point where he's completely lost benefit of the doubt, and we now have a sample size of 20 games going back to last year. Yep. You could say, hey, I'm going to throw out last year because he was a rookie. But the problem is he looks like the exact same guy in now his sophomore year. In games in which Marvin Harrison does not score a touchdown, he is an auto L for your fantasy team. His average finish is wide receiver 65 when he does not score a touchdown. And here's the problem Harrison has got. He's had drops in consecutive games. He has the league's worst separation rate, including tight ends. His average separation is 2 yards. That means lumbering 270-pound tight ends, 250-pound tight ends are getting better separation than Marvin Harrison. And then Kyler Murray and him, they're always misfiring. And we don't know if these errant passes are on Harrison not being in the right spot or Kyler Murray just missing him. But no matter what, this has been a continuing problem for these guys. And at this point, you can't start Marvin Harrison, especially against a good Seattle secondary that has overperformed and has got a lot of young, good players. Chris Olave last week targeted 14 times against Seattle. He got 57 yards out of 14 targets. Terrible.
Charch. The Vikings to use versus Pittsburgh. Addison returns. Which Vikings do you like against the Steelers out Dublin way?
Honestly, I like all of them. The Steelers secondary, which, they had a great pass rush, that has not been effective. Their secondary has not been good and a little bit banged up as well. And I think that that's part of it as well. But if we look at the quarterbacks so far that have faced the Steelers, Justin Fields in week 1 played the game of his life and then promptly the next week looked awful. Steelers put Justin Fields on the best start of his career. Then they faced Sam Darnold, went for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then last week, Drake May, 268 and 2 touchdowns, and he ran for 45 yards. This Steelers defense just doesn't look like the Steelers defense of old that we're used to seeing. The injuries to Joey Porter are significant. One of their safeties, Deshaun Elliott, may not play in this game. So we're tracking that, and those are factors as well. Addison, Paul, I'm convinced, I haven't had a chance to really talk about this enough. The second half of last year, Addison went to a whole different level. In training camp, to the eyes of many, I'd be interested in your thoughts, looked like arguably the best Viking on the field throughout training camp and preseason. He looked fantastic there. I think we are sitting on Jordan Addison taking a whole nother level to his game, and it's going to start this week in this game. Are you with me on the Addison vibes?
Yes. Not necessarily sure that we're looking at 10 targets or more this game, but as the thing moves forward, I think initially Jalen Naylor is going to be the beneficiary of not getting cornerback 2 or cornerback 1 if 2 and 3 or 2 and 4 double Jefferson. So just remember the early stages of last season. Teams tripped out over Addison and Jefferson. Naylor kept scoring every single game. So I think that may be in play. I'm not putting Jalen on 585 and 2, but I think Jalen's going to jump up a little bit. Addison stole the show in the joints against New England. Now Jefferson didn't practice. Okay, so there was a lot more available for Jordan during that time, but he still had to come through with it, and he did. So when I ask you how deep do you get on this thing from a Gee standpoint or a fantasy standpoint, do you get down to Hawkinson? Do you get down to Naylor? Because Mason, Jefferson, Addison, what about Wentz? What do you do with Wentz?
Wentz if you're in a 2 quarterback league, I believe Wentz is startable here. I think he's sitting in the 1 to 2 touchdown range, and they didn't ask him to do too much, but I think all of us liked what we saw, given the circumstance that he was in last week. And I honestly, if there wasn't some coaching faith in Wentz, they could have run even more. The Vikings could have run more and earlier than they did.
Right.
In last week's game, I think they showed a lot of faith in Wentz, and he made good on that. And I guess again, this is a defense that has struggled a lot of different ways. And you mentioned Hawkinson. I'm not starting Naylor for fantasy for sure, but to me, Hawkinson's in. This has been a defense that has struggled against tight ends, including Hunter Henry last week against Pittsburgh. 8 catches, 90 yards, and 2 touchdowns. A.J. Barner scoring before that.
That's a good point.
The Steelers have allowed the second most receiving yards to the tight end position through 3 weeks.
And Hunter Henry, I think, was targeted out of nowhere like 14 times. Yeah, that's a really good take. And Barner's only touchdown, and really the only pass catching pulse that he's shown all season was against these guys. Deshaun Elliott being out, I think definitely plays into that because he's pretty good against tight ends. That's and the Vikings have 2 who clearly can catch. Oliver caught a touchdown last game. All right, now what Steelers versus Flores? Steelers versus the Vikings defense. What do you do there?
Well, we've gotten to the point now. This Vikings defense is just terrorizing teams, and it's awfully fun to watch. I mean, I can tell you that much. There's not a lot to like for any of the Steelers players, excepting DK Metcalf. Metcalf is a beast anyway, but the Vikings cornerbacks are a half foot shorter and 40 pounds lighter. I mean, this has got jump ball potential, box out potential near the goal line. Aaron Rodgers has always been somebody who can throw from inside the 5-yard line. DK Metcalf, to me, has got the size matchup advantage over the Vikings cornerbacks that I thought T. Higgins might use, but they never even really threw to T. Higgins last game. I thought, that could have been a T. Higgins opportunity too. Bengals didn't use it, but I feel confident that Pittsburgh will. But he's about the only player from a fantasy standpoint for the Steelers that I feel comfortable rolling out against this Viking defense right now, which obviously looks like one of about 4 defenses that you have to show a ton of caution on.
All right. Lastly, for me, for now, outside of the covenant, outside of the doubling game, it's Ashton Genty. What a fantasy! What a fantasy buzzkill through the first 3. And he, there are those in the game who believe he is generational talent with just the overall game. And he gets the Bears this weekend, and you can score on the Bears, and their pass rush ain't great. And they got, as usual, 8 injured cornerbacks. Ashton Genty, what the heck do you do with him?
All right, here's your stat of the day, Paul. Ashton Genty has 155 rushing yards. 156 of them are after contact.
Where'd the -1
no
go?
No back should be asked to do that. He is on average seeing his first contact behind the line of scrimmage.
Oh,
it is. It is so bad. The offensive line is so bad. And in the rare moments where Ashton Genty's got a little bit of room to work with, he's making guys miss. He looks like the college player that we expected. It's got to come together against the Bears. The Bears' run defense was awful last year. They allowed the most rushing touchdowns last year. Right now, they rank 28th in fantasy points allowed to running backs. They rank 31st in rushing yards allowed. It's got to come together this week for Ashton Genty. I'm buying the dip. If there's a fantasy owner out there that's ready to sell Genty 75 cents on the dollar, I'm going to go try to make that deal on the assumption that the Raiders' offensive line can't be this bad for the rest of the year.
Hey, let me ask you about this. BA and I were talking about this earlier. The Colts-Rams game on Sunday is infinitely more interesting than anyone ever would have predicted. And that's because of what Daniel Jones is doing. So 3-0 squad. Mm-hmm. I think he's got 3 passing touchdowns. We might have 3 on the ground. Is there a secret that was potentially a secret, but now the secret's out about Daniel Jones as a fantasy option on a week-to-week basis?
Well, this is a tough one because the Rams are playing really good defense. They've got a tremendous pass rush. Secondary is underrated. This is not necessarily a game where I expect Daniel Jones to perform at a really high level. But what's weird about watching Daniel Jones and the success he's having is you're looking at the Colts receivers and suddenly saying to yourself, my God, this team is suddenly deep at the receiver position. They Tyler Warren, their new tight end, who looks fantastic, and he's in the early conversation for Rookie of the Year. They can hit you with Michael Pittman and Josh Downs and Ashton Doolin, and you're like, Adonai Mitchell. Suddenly there's all these options on the field, and they look like a dynamic offense. And you know what? The thing that I feel really good about out of all of the Colts storylines, Shane Steichen was the odds-on favorite to be the first coach fired. And this goes such a long way to showing that you can be a good coach and really struggle when you've got terrible quarterbacking. And all Shane Steichen needed was a decent, non-awful quarterback. And now that he's got one in Daniel Jones, everybody's flourishing. And of course, it's another opportunity for the Giants and Joe Shane to look like morons.
Hey, how much are Malik Neighbors owners in fantasy leagues sweating Jackson Dart? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Where's your head on it, Charch?
Unlike Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart actually cares. What Russell Wilson did on Sunday night was professionally embarrassing.
I agree.
And honestly, it's going to chisel away at his Hall of Fame resume. So let me ask both of you. Is Russell Wilson a first ballot Hall of Famer? Is he an eventual Hall of Famer? Or do you think he never gets in?
I would say eventual.
This is not helping him.
Eventual.
Yes, eventual.
And you know what? Last year with Pittsburgh, it got so bad, and I think I told you this on one of the final feasts we did. It got so bad with him and Arthur Smith that he was almost like flippantly changing the play. Like Smith would put a run in, and 8.5 out of 10 times he changed a pass. Almost flippantly, just to show somebody that this is my show and this is how it goes. But it plays into it's borderline insubordination, and that was kind of the same thing last game, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what he did at the end of that game is one of the worst sequences that in memory for any quarterback ever. And Jackson Dart's going to walk in. What Dart does, he brings remarkable mobility. He's not quite Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, but he's a thick, big body guy who loves to run. And Brian Daboll, among the many reasons that he probably should be fired, if he does not give Dart copious designed runs, that is a huge mistake, because Dart can be very special as a runner. But he's also, what we saw in the preseason, Jackson Dart completed 78% of his passes. And a lot of it was short stuff, but still, this is a kid who's willing to throw downfield. I don't know if Dable will let him do that right away, or if it'll be more like we saw in preseason with the short stuff, but he throws an incredibly catchable pass. He's got nice touch. And I think Jackson Dart will go a long way towards resurrecting the Giants offense. He'll help Malik Neighbors, who's been languishing under the sleepwalking of Russell Wilson. Wilson, by the way, could be inactive for this game. I think Jameis Winston will be the backup quarterback. It would not surprise me at all.
How deep do you go with Packers against Dallas, which has no pass rush?
We're basically starting all of them. I can't remember a game with a worse defense than the one that we saw last week in Chicago. I mean, Caleb Williams, every time he went back to pass, he had 4 open receivers. There was zero interest from that defense in covering anybody, and a collapse the likes of which I haven't seen. One of my favorite sleepers for this week, and this is a preview of Fantasy Football Weekly, Dontavian Wicks. Go pick him up now. He's available in about 80% of fantasy leagues. Wicks is the most targeted Packers receiver. He can run a little from the slot if they need him to in place of Jaden Reed, but won't need to here. He can run outside, and that's a very plus matchup opportunity. So he's one of my favorite sleepers. And, then I think it's Jordan Love back in play coming off a bad game. He'll rebound nicely here. And Tucker Kraft is, every week starter at tight end for sure.
And lastly, are Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins non-fantasy plays due to Jake Browning?
See, I didn't think Jake Browning was the problem last week. I thought it was the offensive line much more than Jake. I mean, obviously he didn't look good, and I'm not trying to make excuses for his play, but I thought he was put in some really tough positions by his offense, and then Brian Flores just put him in a blender. I think he bounces back with a much better game this week. Not fantasy startable. T. Higgins probably isn't either because he's not getting enough work. And we know that Jake Browning's got a long history of just pelting Jamar Chase with targets, which is what I would do too. So, that's Chase Brown is really frustrating because I thought he was sitting on a great season. They can't run block at all. The offensive line is they rank dead last in run block win rate, and they rank dead last in Pro Football Focus's run blocking, and Chase Brown just can't. There's nothing to be done there, unfortunately.
My man, I'll text you when I get over to Dublin and send some pictures and stuff like that. Tell Roxy that we say hello. God bless you, and thanks for the time.
I will look forward to getting pictures from Dublin. No nudes, if you don't mind.
No news? Just kidding. Thank you very much.
No news.
PA
Thank
and
you.
Charch.
Can't hear you.
And Charch.
Can't hear you with that weird thing. All right, we got to go. Be right back.
Since we spend so much time, more so off air than on, but once we hear a name, we hear an old name like Archie Manning, and then
Dan Barrero.
Yes, exactly. Correct. And just the different pathways that hearing that name take us. Now, in this particular case, thinking about the NFL, thinking about the draft.
It's NFL only.
So the other day, let's use this as an example.
Facing a 4-man rush. Here comes a Minnesota Viking, and it's
Austin
Keys. The undrafted
Austin
Keys. Who gets his first.
So Austin Keys was an Auburn Tiger, but then prior to that, he played at Ole Miss. And we've done this before, and you'll have Lavelle on, and it's like, okay, all-time Baltimore Orioles, go, right? Boom.
You might have, I got an idea. This might be your idea, but go ahead.
Well, it's just kind of, so I have 9 total Vikings, and there's no chance you'd ever get any of them. But it just kind of brings me down memory lane. I fall in love with the StatHead account and Pro Football Reference and things when you start hearing the names and you start remembering the games.
Yeah.
And so,
well, like last week, and I didn't get it in the game call. Big deal. It's a complete non sequitur / aside. Dax Hill, Michigan corner.
okay, yeah.
Well, he's the younger brother of Justice Hill, Baltimore running back.
Oh, wow.
So you can tie something in quick twitch if it hits you the right way, but nothing hit me the right way. But that's kind of a cool little aside.
No, absolutely. So while digging into this, all jokes aside, Austin Arden, who cares? But
here's the idea quickly moving forward.
Okay.
So so Austin Keys, let's say Auburn.
Yeah.
Paul, and then we can even rotate it, and I could have you do it one week. Paul, I believe in the last 20 years of Auburn Tigers football, you can't name more than 3.5 players.
Ooh.
You can't name more than 7.5 players.
I like that.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be neat.
So specifically in this case, I played off of Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Because there are some Vikings connections specifically to Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
So Ole Miss foot.
All right, let's go. We got Laquan Treadwell.
That is correct. Yes.
Hey, they got to be Vikings.
At large, I do have.
Oh, wow.
I do have Ole Miss players who were actually drafted by the Purple, but just in general.
Eli Manning.
Absolutely, yeah. Eli and Archie, which brings me to the question, by the way, because
this thing sucks.
Because Eli goes to Ole Miss probably because of Archie, who also went to Ole Miss.
Okay.
Did you ask that Derek go to Pasadena City College to follow the same footsteps?
But what's happening right now? I mean, I'm just trying to acquiesce in a baby game. I've already caught 2 Arden Keys strays, and now I just caught one involving my son.
Well, I've already set Ava and Stella up to go to a technical school and then drop out after 3 years and no degree.
And when they start working at Best Buy, maybe they'll make it a career. So
Care Plus, though.
Well, what am I doing here? Treadwell, Eli, Archie, your guy, Michael Lohr.
There we go.
Okay.
Blindside, though.
Yep, Michael Lohr.
What about if I went like this? If I went,
gas mask guy.
Laramie Tunsil.
That'd be it for now.
Okay, how about this? Highlight wide receiver who might be getting angry, and they'll have to force him the ball potentially with an offense where the QB runs it in more than he passes.
Keyshawn Barrero.
Dan Barrero. Somebody deleted the Dan Barrero sounder from Next Gen, by the way.
So if you had set the over-under there at 3.5, I would have gotten the over.
I think you did. Yeah, absolutely.
But still, I mean, it's.
I was looking for a Jamarcus Sanford pull.
Jamarcus Sanford's a good one. Thank you very much.
Or Marcus Johnson, the second round O lineman from back in the day.
There are so many players I write down on game calling depth charts from University of Mississippi, but I'll write down Ole Miss because that's just generally how I like to describe it.
Yeah.
So there've been a lot. I can't remember any. What's next?
Well, this
is a neat baby game. Give me one.
Well, that's why. How about Robert Nkemdiche? Remember that?
Yeah. Nkemdiche.
Nkemdiche, is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah,
and
he was the topsy-turvy, sometimes overly emotional wild card defensive lineman.
This guy was fantastic, but ended his career early. Patrick Willis.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Willis.
So you're just doing one school.
Well, as of this moment, I guess, in terms of what I had in front of me.
I was like, okay, let's do Notre Dame. Bursich, Harry the Hitman.
Well, I think if we do like 7...
Rick Myrer.
If we do 7 schools per segment, then it could get... I was curious, like Deuce McAllister. Like I see some of these names.
Yeah.
And I just think about how that just the games that shaped me when I was younger as a Rube. That was kind of the direction.
So the other school was Auburn?
Yeah, Auburn.
Okay.
We can go Auburn. I mean, the first
Name the most famous National Football League player to play at Auburn.
It has to be Cam Newton, right?
What about Bo Jackson?
Oh,
hey! Hey!
Never mind.
See, the baby game ain't easy.
Never mind.
And you know what? I mean, and that's like if you search famous Auburn football players, there might be somebody more famous.
Wow.
I don't see how they could
Bo,
be.
though? There's no chance that there's anybody more. Nobody's more famous. I mean, it has to be Bo. It has to be Cam.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I'm even scrambling now.
They had a running back field. They had a running back group at one point.
Oh, Ronnie Brown.
Yep. Cadillac Williams.
Whew.
Oh, there was another one in there. Oh, Brandon Jacobs. That's right. Then the Beefeater didn't want to be part of the three-way cut, so he went to Southern Illinois and became a Saluki.
Wait a minute. They had Ronnie Brown, Cadillac Williams, and Brandon Jacobs
At the same time.
all at the exact same time.
So Auburn, Tequila Spikes.
Takeo Spikes.
No, Bo Jackson. I mean, that's where it starts and stops,
Well,
right?
you were a big Stephen Davis fan.
The running back?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was nice.
Bo Nix, I guess, even though he ended as a Duck, he was at Auburn. At
Joe
one point.
Cribbs, William Andrews, rough and tumble running back for the Falcons. Oh, these are, wow.
Joe Cribbs would have been
Some
a
nice
name.
running backs there.
That would have been
James
a name you
Brooks.
had fun with in a game call with Cribbs.
Dave Edwards, Willie Anderson's one of the great offensive linemen in the history of the game. He went there. Kevin Green, Bo Jackson, and
Kevin Green went to Auburn. Wow.
Wait a second here. This at NFL.com,
Yeah.
they got a bit where they have Bo Jackson listed number 2 behind, I believe, Cameron, but behind Cam Newton.
Well, that's an era thing.
Oh, no. Number 1 is Frank Gatsky. Frank Gatsky was not drafted.
Isn't that a book?
Gatsky, yeah, he was the great Gatsky. Played 11 seasons for the Cleveland Browns and 1 season for the Detroit Lions in the 40s and 50s. Was a member of all 4 of the Browns All-American Football Conference championships and 3 NFL championship Browns teams in the 50s. You see, this is where it marries have respect for the past, you snot-nosed kid, compared to, okay, well, we may have read the novel on the great Gatsky, but we've never seen him play. So that makes it difficult.
Well, that's the tough thing, though, is you respect history, right? So, like,
he played against, I mean, was this even 11 on 11? I mean, and it might have been against a bunch of 5'8" Bob Cousy's at 3 technique trying to get around it.
Yeah, he's nearing leather helmet territory. But it's like you could appreciate Broadway Joe.
Yeah.
Who now we're jumping to the Crimson Tide. But it's like Broadway Joe, I see the highlights. I know what he did, and that's awesome. But as a millennial, the only time I saw Broadway Joe is when he was telling Susie Colbert that he just wanted to kiss her on the sideline of a Monday Night Football game.
With the baby game, I like the enterprising approach.
Maybe we can tweak it.
We need multiple teams.
Okay.
Because it's if you believe my recall for things, Vikings football or game calling depth chart are pretty good, which I know you believe. Well, there's a difference between that and, okay, I got the game releases. I've highlighted it. I've looked at it again. I've written it on the game calling depth chart. I've looked at that. I've highlighted that. Now it's game time. I'm looking at all the numbers.
Right.
So I've gone over it 6 or 7 times.
Yes, you have.
To go quick twitch on the calls. Well, that doesn't mean I can remember Deuce McAllister played at Ole Miss. I mean, what do I remember about Jamarcus Sanford? Taking that bad angle on Robert Griffin III when he won Rookie of the Year, and FedEx Field was one of the loudest outdoor venues I've ever encountered in a regular season game. So I can remember that.
So you don't have any big Everett Lindsay skull stories?
I don't have any Everett Lindsay skull stories. I mean, he might have beaten me out of $600 in Boo Ray one time on a flight before Boo Ray got cut off.
Was that in your best interest that Boo Ray got cut off?
The enterprising nature of the baby game is dynamite. Needs tweaking. Needs an over-under on, all right, here it is this week. You know, so-and-so played at Notre Dame. I'm believing quick twitch. You can't name more than 5.5 members of the Fighting Irish football team over the last 20 years. Well, see, that'd be fun. Put a little millionaire music behind it. Couple of, that's right.
Yeah.
That's good enough to eat right there.
Well, if I'm going to put you in that spot,
we'll do that 4 times a day in the summer.
I got to absolutely. We will spend an entire show doing
Major League Baseball draft. It's so memorable.
When I do best of, it's going to be 2 hours of that, and then maybe Covenant catch up here and there. You know who we missed though? Is DK Metcalf, guy we're going to see this weekend. DK Metcalf went to Ole Miss.
Did he really?
He did. So
well, see, but we have to do it now.
Yeah,
because there's so many players that I'm coming across that were Butte Community College, Dixie College, Michigan, Oregon State.
Maybe.
So he claims Oregon State. He's third year from Oregon State, but he played 3.5 at Michigan. You know what I mean?
So then, moving forward, and using Austin Keys as an example, he's Auburn. Mm-hmm. He went to Ole Miss, but he's Auburn.
Yeah.
Bo Nix went to Auburn, but he's a Duck because he finished. He found his way to the NFL through Eugene. So maybe that's how we tweak it too.
If I'm Cam Ward and I go into the Hall of Fame, it's incarnate word. Okay, I'm incarnate Ward. Might be a little blasphemous there. I'm going in representing incarnate word. All right, let's pause. Be right back.
All right.
Fan.
Thanks for the good times. Don't forget tomorrow, the Friday football feast. Then Sunday from Dublin, 8:30 for the Boom. For Nordo, I'm Paul Allen. Have a good day.
Getting hustle, keeping your head
Has no chance.
making a way.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.